Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Alyx King. Today is Thursday, May the 23rd, 2019. It's 8 a.m. in New York. It's 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, 1 p.m. in London, and in Sydney, Australia, it's 10 p.m. And wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And the only unhappy thing is Joel doesn't get a chance to join us today for this Thursday because he has a client who needs some special assistance, so he's giving some special assistance to a client, which, you know, I can wish that for the client. We want that client to get the best value from Joel because that's what Joel does. He gives good value.
I guess.
But it's kind of sad because we don't get to talk to Joel today. We won't. That's the good part.
Yeah.
And the good news is, and you just told me this like literally seconds before we started the podcast, you have a great topic for us today.
I do.
That's the good news. That's really, really great news right there. Now, the topic, I've been doing something the last couple of days. I want to continue it here. And that is, I am focusing on trying to get messages out early in the podcast, particularly since we learned a few days ago that some of our live stream listeners haven't really figured out where to find the live stream link.
Right.
So we want to explain, how do you find the live stream link? I figure if we put that into all the podcasts this week, they'll listen to at least one of them, and now they'll know. So, right? Isn't that the way it works? So it's very simple. We actually have it in a lot of different places. The simplest place to find the link is if you are listening to this in your podcast app on your phone or on your device right now. That app, like 99% likely, it has a description. And if it has a description, it has a link in that description to the live stream channel on YouTube. So that's your easiest way to find it. But there are other ways too. But wait, there's more. Because we're also announcing on social media each time that we are starting the show that the show is starting. So we send out a tweet that includes a link to the live stream channel. We send out a post to the LOA Today page on Facebook that includes a link to the live stream channel. And we also put in a link on the Law of Attraction Change My Life group on Facebook that includes a link to the YouTube channel. And we post on Instagram that there is a link. Here's a link you can copy and paste so you can go to listen to the live stream channel. And finally, last but not least, we actually have on YouTube a way for you to find out when we're doing a live stream. It actually sends a notification. And you're better at explaining this part. So why don't you explain, how do you get notified so that, okay, I know that they're live streaming?
Well, I just got my live stream notification this morning. So to find out when we're live streaming, all you have to do is go to LOA Today podcast videos and click the subscribe button, and then right next to the subscribe button, there's a little tiny bell, and you click that bell, and you will be notified every time that we are live.
So there we have it. We have like 5 or 6 different ways to find the live stream. If you can't find it at this point, then send an email to walt@loatoday.net, and I will personally help you to find the live stream.
We will walk you through it.
I'll send it to you by email. That makes it easy. Then you just click on the link in the email.
Right.
So that's just solid fun. But seriously, we do love it when some of our podcast listeners join us on the live stream because, well, it's just more fun. We get to have interaction. Take questions and they bring up comments. Sometimes they even jump onto the Zoom platform. By the way, links to the Zoom platform are also in the description of the podcast on your app. So
open the description, people.
That description is a very useful description. It's not just a bunch of junk that we threw in there. It actually has, useful information in it.
Right.
We try to be helpful. So
yeah.
Now, I suppose I would be remiss if I didn't also mention subscribing, because some people who are listening to this are listening for the first time. So if you're not yet a podcast subscriber, well, join the fun. It's really simple. Again, you can look in the description. We got links there. But if you can't find the right link for you, just go to the homepage of our website, loatoday.net. And right at the top, for your device, will be a description of how you can subscribe to the podcast. It's really that simple. And once you subscribe and share. Tell other people. Tell them you're enjoying each time that you're listening to one of our shows because that's how we spread the word.
Yep.
So there it is. Those are our announcements. Oh, and we have another announcement about the grass is greener.
Ooh.
I told about it yesterday. I'm going to repeat it today. The grass is greener. We put out a casting call. We've had, by my last count, over 300 people respond to it.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's fun. It's crazy. And we've processed about half of them in the first step, not even full processing, just the first step where we kind of organize it so we can all look at it and say, okay, so what do we have here anyway?
Right.
But that doesn't mean you can't throw your hat into the ring. Actually, we encourage our listeners to do that. If you've always wanted to be an actor, and this is a nice, simple way to act, hey, all you got to do is just send us something with your voice on it. And what we're recommending is make a 20-second selfie video. Because anybody can do that. Anybody who has a smartphone can make a selfie video. Just do 20 seconds talking about anything, just so we can hear what you sound like and how you talk. And then send it to me. Send it to my email address, walt@loatoday.net. And I will make sure that you get included in the casting process.
I thought we were sending it to casting@LOA.
I'm doing that through, I post it that way on the ads that we place online.
Gotcha.
And the reason I'm doing that is because I have a lot of experience with developing websites. And a long time ago, I learned that email hackers and so forth love to take their victims' addresses from places online. So I put up an address that I can make into a temporary address anytime I want to. It's what's called a forwarding email. It doesn't actually have an account of its own. It just forwards to my account. And so if casting gets too much spam, then I just delete the casting forwarder and everything's fine.
Right.
It's like a anti-spam strategy is what it is. But yeah, either one will work. They both come to the same place. So you can send it to casting@loatoday.net or walt@loatoday.net, either one. So there we go. Okay, we got all the announcements in, and it only took us 7 minutes.
Well, I would be remiss to not mention that if you are looking for information about casting for The Grass is Greener, we actually just started a Grass is Greener page on Facebook.
Good point.
So you can search us on there, and all the information is in the post.
And Alyx came up with the logo. I have to say her logo is a better one than mine, so thank you for creating the logo.
I'm cool like that.
So anyway, now that we've held everybody in suspense for 7 minutes, what's the topic you had in mind for today?
Okay, so I was thinking, because this has been brought to my attention, not for me personally, but somebody I know. My question is, are you a people fixer when you're in a relationship?
Oh my God, this is great. And there are lots of different kinds of relationships where this could apply. We were talking about this before the show, how I was involved with a topic discussion in a group, and there was a whole lot of people fixing going on there. Yeah, it's a great question. And I'll even add a secondary question to it. Is it a possibility that there are some times when it's good to help somebody fix themselves, or is it never a good idea, or is it always a good idea?
We'll delve into that.
We'll delve into that in big detail. So, well, this is your topic. Why don't you talk about how it came about and what you've been thinking about?
Well, okay, so I have a person in my life who is a female in my life who I notice picks the wrong men because she likes fixer-uppers.
This sounds similar to our podcast, The Grass is Greener. It sounds a little like it's different. The theme is different, but it's got a parallel.
Yeah, well, picking the wrong men is the parallel, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And there's a lot. It's not just picking the wrong men. There are men who pick the wrong women, and there are men who pick the wrong men, and women who pick the wrong women. I mean, this is a
anybody can pick the wrong anybody. It's just a matter of, why do you feel that you can change this person into who you want them to be?
Yeah. And that is the source of a great deal of frustration. A lot of
and can create toxic relationships and drama, and you end up breaking up anyway. So what's the point?
Well, you can create audio play out of it, but
facts. Give us more.
That's right. Send your script too. You can actually use the same email address for that if you like.
I know, right? Send your script ideas too.
But it is just amazing how often that kind of thing pops up. And it's one of those things that when you're in the midst of it, you don't realize you're in the midst of it.
Yes, it's only the outside people that can see it for you.
Yeah.
That's why you have to have a good defensive line and a good sounding board.
In fact, when you do get to the point when you can see it, that's when you're able to release it.
Right. That's when you're like, this isn't working. Maybe I should go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I know that in my own case, I've told this story before. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I was horribly frustrated by my lack of intimate relationships. And I didn't understand what role I was playing. I didn't understand how I was attracting the wrong people. I mean, I was, there's no doubt that I was attracting women that were just not appropriate for me at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't understand how I was doing it.
Yeah.
And it's a frustrating place to be in, and it's a confusing place to be in, because if you're in that place and you don't know why you're doing it, what do you do?
Mm.
You know? Like you said, it's great to have a sounding board. I've told you before how introverted I was.
Right.
I didn't even have a sounding board. Mm-hmm. I had nobody to talk to. Nobody I felt that I could trust about this stuff. Not even family members. I couldn't trust any of my family members on this.
Well, I wasn't born yet, so you didn't have me. So.
This is true.
Otherwise, I would have been there.
Oh, thank you so much. But what I did learn over time, and it took me until well after I met Louise, married for a good 10 years before I finally put two and two together and realized that I was beginning, even before the relationship began, I was beginning every meeting with the idea that it was not going to work.
Oh, that's not a good idea.
I was convinced of it deep down. I didn't actually say to myself, you know what, I'm going to meet somebody, but I know it's not going to work. That's not the way that worked. You know?
Yeah.
It was just, I went to it like, oh, this just doesn't feel like it's going to work, but I'll try anyway. You know?
Yeah.
And I had no idea how much I was setting myself up by doing that.
I kind of have a similar situation where I was talking to my cousin one day and he was like, all right, so because I've been in dating apps for the last 2 years. So he's like, okay, what number dude is this? And I was like, listen, you got to kiss a lot of frogs to get your prince. So you got. He's like, well, why don't you just find the prince? I was like, listen, I'm trying to get straight to the castle. However, there are steps to this.
You really know how to run with a metaphor. I got to tell you.
I do. I could go for a metaphor all day. Like, challenge me. Everything about that day will be part of the metaphor. Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay. Yeah. How did you end up sorting that out?
That's just the way it is. There's frogs out there, and you got to kiss them to find out if they're going to be a prince or not.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I try to weed them out with my own, past experience and common sense. And like I said, my defensive line, I'm like, I'll just send them pictures. I'm like, what do you think of this dude? They're like, what's the deets? And I send them all the details. And they're like, nope, next. And I'm like, all right, moving on.
Okay.
And I also have, my mom and my dog. So that's like the third test. If you come over and my dogs don't like you or my mom doesn't like you, you got to go.
Yeah, that's a useful filtering mechanism. That works. Yeah, that's good. So what you have then is a methodology. You have, okay, here's some filtering that I do. I run everybody through the filter, and if there's anybody left at the end, that's who I actually consider getting involved with on a longer term basis.
It's like casting.
It is like casting.
Yeah. I'm casting for the role of my husband. Yes.
When you look at the word casting, where does it come from? It's like casting a net into the sea for fishing.
Yeah, and there's plenty of fish in the sea.
And you pull all the fish in, and then you run them through your filtering process. Okay, this one's too small. I'll throw that one back.
Yeah.
I'll keep that one.
This one's too small.
Okay. I didn't have any.
I know. I'm terrible.
You're the one who turned that into innuendo. Innuendo out the other endo. Yeah, so.
Oh my God! I the other endo.
We try to keep it clean here, but it doesn't always work.
Nope. Not when we're alone. No, it never does.
Well, except we're not alone. We're also live with live stream listeners and a whole bunch of podcast listeners.
Well, I mean, when we don't have a third person to, mediate the situation.
True. This is true. So, anyway. All right. Well, then let's talk about some strategies.
Okay.
I mean, you just described one, a filtering mechanism, some sort of a methodology for, handling the stream of people coming through is
well, before you get to that, you have to know what you want, what you're looking for. And if those people don't apply to your list of demands, I'll say, then you're wasting your time.
So wait a minute. Are you actually suggesting that we should do our filtering by letting the universe filter for us?
Bum, bum, bum.
Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner.
Plot twist. It's all law of attraction.
Absolutely. I agree with you. That's exactly what you should do. And
Yeah.
in fact, we made a video that never actually got used. I used it for a small market test and it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So, but we made a video in which we talked about, different stories. You told one story about how you had made this list and the guy who showed up checked every mark on the list.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like 4 different stories in my final video that were all the same thing. Check, check,
Right.
check. I mean, so this is a method that works.
Right.
Now, here's a question for you that I can't seem to answer. Maybe you know the answer. Why is it that women will use that list method more than men will? Because I tell you, I would say probably 95%, maybe close to 99% of the stories I hear about people using checklists are told by women.
I feel that men don't realize that these people are checking things off of their list until it happens. So they're not going in going, okay, does she have the type of job I think I would want my wife to have? Does she have, does she drive the type of car, just for superficial, questions, does she, live alone? Does she have kids? Whatever your standards are. And then I was talking to one dude who was like, ooh, you're confident. That's a check. And then, and he was like, ooh, you have this. That's another check. I was like, okay, so he's got a list.
Yeah.
So
well,
there
I think
are some men.
Point. That's the key point, because I think guys actually do create a list.
Yeah.
It's just they don't write it down and they don't tell it as a story.
Right. And they don't think about it until later in the relationship, and they're like, wow, she's everything I wanted. Mm-hmm. And that's when they go ring shopping. So it takes a while.
Yeah. But therein lies the difference. I think that this kind of points to a gender thing. Women will more readily tell that story. That becomes their way of saying, yes, here's what happened. It's more of a direct connection. Law of attraction, I attracted it. Here's how I did it. Mm-hmm. Whereas guys will tend to do it more indirectly. And I don't know why. I know I did the same thing. I certainly didn't write down a list, and I certainly didn't tell a story like, well, I was reaching out to try to find somebody who had all these different characters. I didn't do that. When my wife told me that story, I kind of laughed at it,
Yeah, it might be a societal thing because, I mean, it's not norm now because, being single is totally fine throughout your entire life. That's fine. But like we were at a point in history where you had to get married by a certain age and so your women are out here dating whoever and left and right. And then you get to the point where you're just like, okay, I need to sit down and figure out what I want. But men are just like, they'll come if they come. They won't if they won't. And I'll be a bachelor for the rest of my life. And I'll go to the bars and I'll hang out with my friends and that'll be fine.
Some are, yeah. But there are also some like me. I mean, I had no interest in hanging out at bars. I didn't like hanging out in bars then. And, I mean, it was like, oh, God, is that really where I have to go to meet women?
Right. Yeah. Like some days I'm like, thank God for dating apps because I don't want to do the whole, waiting around at a bar, waiting for a drink that might get roofied. And it's just, it's too much. It's hard out there in these streets, let me tell you.
It was harder before. We didn't have apps when I was doing it. So I mean, I had to actually work hard on coming up with alternative
You had to be like active and like put your face out there. Like, yeah.
And for me, one of the biggest ways to meet women was through swing dancing, which became a passion. I just loved doing.
Yeah.
Just a really, really fun kind of dance. Not that I actually dated anybody who turned into a relationship that mattered, but it was a way for me to get out there and meet women.
Right.
And another way and by the way, this is something that anyone who's involved in dance circles will tell you. Don't go to a dance in order to meet women or to meet men.
No.
Go to the dance because you enjoy the dancing.
Right.
Not that you can't meet anybody there. You can. You're going to meet lots. I mean, I literally had hundreds of female friends who were all dance partners. Mm-hmm. So I met lots and lots of women that way. But I didn't go there in order to meet women. I went there to dance.
Yeah, you can take that same sentiment and apply it to the fact that in life you need to do that. You need to be who you are down to your soul and be proud of who you are and I'm not saying don't have insecurities. We all do, but I'm saying be proud of your insecurities. Just be who you are, and someone will be attracted to that. Don't try to be who you think someone wants you to be because that'll never last. That will never last.
No.
Once they see the real you, they'll be like,
100% failure rate.
Yeah.
It's not good at all. But you're right, and you actually mentioned a few moments ago about the guy you were talking about, who said, wow, I love the fact that you're so confident.
Yeah.
Boy, confidence is one of the best aphrodisiacs ever invented.
Yes, because nobody wants a needy person right off the bat. Nobody wants
except for somebody who wants to fix a needy person.
Yes. Yes.
Which goes back to your topic.
Exactly. There are people out there, but like I said, those relationships fail 100% of the time.
They do. They do. And you know what's really wild about it is that people who have those relationships and the relationships fail, they keep repeating the same behavior over and over again, hoping that it's going to change somehow.
That's because hindsight's 20/20, and you don't realize it that you need relationship classes.
And here's the funny thing: hindsight is 20/20. So why don't people actually look at it?
That's what I'm saying. You need relationship classes.
That's right.
Because you're like, I don't know, 2013. I don't know what you're doing, but it's not working.
I think this is actually what we're really talking about is this is where understanding law of attraction is really helpful.
Yes, yes.
Because when you understand the process, what you realize is what you put out there is what you get back in some similar form. Not necessarily identical, but some similar form.
Yeah.
So when I put out there that this isn't going to work, I got that back. If somebody had told that to me when I was 20 years old, I would have said, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, I never considered that possibility.
Yeah.
Whereas if you know that going into it, like, oh, wow, this means as what we call a conscious creator or a deliberate creator, I can actively, kind of mold who this person's going to be that I want to meet before I even meet her.
Right. Because once you meet her, you can't mold them now. It's too late.
Yeah,
they are who they are.
We're way past that part.
You're not actually molding the person into who you want them to be. You're molding the universe to find you that person in your categories.
Which is so much better.
Yeah, it is.
You don't actually have to fix anybody when you do that.
Right. They already came perfect in a package.
And by the way, this is where it gets really challenging, by the way. But it also is how you begin to realize the truth that no one actually needs fixing.
Right. Everybody is who they are. And you're the only you that has ever been made. So just be you.
And fixing isn't a part of the equation.
No.
Which is kind of a shock the first time you hear that. What do you mean fixing is not part of the equation? Don't you have to fix somebody if you don't like the way they are?
I also want to say there's a difference between fixing and healing. Because some people are going through things and they feel they need to be fixed, but that's not the right terminology you want to go with. You need help healing. Yes,
I would even further qualify it by saying self-healing.
Yes.
Because you really can't heal anybody else. I mean, you can send them energy.
No, you can't. Yeah.
You can send them energy. You can send them good thoughts, and if they're receptive to them, those good thoughts will help them. They'll help boost what they're trying to do and so forth. But you can't do it for them.
No.
They have to ultimately be doing the healing. They have to be doing the work. And if they're not going to do the work, then they're not going to get the results.
Exactly.
And what we're talking about, it isn't like, oh, God, I have to put in 40 hours this week on my job in order to get paid. It's not that kind of work. It's a much easier form of work than that.
Yeah. Throw it in your mirror exercises or, just take 5 seconds out of your day when you first wake up.
Appreciation, meditation, all kinds of stuff.
If you're into numbers and you see 11:11. Yeah, and you're like, okay, it's 11:11. All right, close your eyes. I'm going to meet my husband this year. And I'm done. That's it. That's it.
You just did one episode. Now, you shouldn't be done forever with that. You should be.
No. It's an everyday thing, but.
Yeah. That's the other thing that I think confuses people. Well, I did all these things. My thing isn't showing up. What's going on? Okay. So what are you thinking about the rest of the time? It's like I can go through my day and think to myself, well, women suck. Women are never going to love me. Women are just, they're horrible to live with. You can't live with them. You can't live without them. But I did think for a moment that I really want the woman of my dreams. Why didn't she show up?
Think of everything you just said before you got to the good part.
Exactly. That's what I mean. I don't really want to laugh at somebody who goes through that because it's hard when you're in the middle. It is
hard when you precedent with negativity.
But if they're not in the room, I will laugh. Like if I'm looking at a Facebook thing, and I'm seeing.
Oh yes, all day.
I'll just laugh out loud. I will say that to them. I don't want to humiliate them or anything like that. But it's just funny when you look at it. Yeah. It's just wow. amazing how and here's the other thing that gets me. People who post, I can't seem to make this LOA stuff work. I try and try and try, and I don't manifest anything in my life. And I'm thinking to myself, they have a whole life full of things and people and so forth, and they're convinced they didn't manifest any of it.
Right.
Really?
I mean, it's like good or bad. You got to look at who's in your life, what's in your life. Like, you know, you have a roof over your head, you have a car to drive, you have gas in your car. You manifested all of that.
That's right. Exactly right. Yeah. And once we realize that, that's almost like getting that 2x4 to the side of the head.
Yeah, yeah.
When you realize that you manifested all that, then you start saying, oh, I guess I'm not thinking about this right. What I really mean is, I didn't manifest what I had hoped I was going to manifest. Not that I can't manifest anything.
And those are the people who think law of attraction is a magic genie where you're supposed to be making wishes.
Or they think that it's a bunch of nonsense and you should be thrown out the window.
Which is why they shouldn't be in the group, because you're just posting negativity just to be trolling people. Like you're just starting a fight just to start a fight. Like there's no reason.
Some people are doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, everybody is source energy. Mm-hmm. You and I can agree on that.
Yes.
And therefore we all need energy. Mm-hmm. The thing is, a lot of people don't understand how to get energy from within because we are source energy. So they try to steal it from others.
Yes.
So that's why they troll. That's why they figure that they can't attract anything into their life. That's why they create all these problems. That's why they create dramas.
Which is why they're wishing for good vibrations. Send good vibes.
Yeah, send good vibes. Good vibes, yeah. All of it is about, I need energy and I don't know how to get it from within myself. So I will find a way to wheedle, cajole, steal, or just ask, beg, whatever energy from everybody else. So that way I can get energy.
It's not just energy they're looking for, it's attention too. That's the whole reason they posted it.
Like, oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, they're like, do they want someone to go, oh, what's wrong? How can we help?
Yeah, well that gives you energy.
Yeah, that's
the
true.
two actually go together. I mean, they're inseparable, really. You got to have the attention in order to get the energy from outside of yourself, and you got to get the energy outside of yourself to get the attention. I mean, they really are not separable. Mm-hmm. And you're right. Attention is what it's all about for so many people.
Yes.
The thing is, it's not a bad thing necessarily to want attention. No.
It's just what kind of attention are you attracting?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard definition sometimes, not a definition, but a hard delineation. How do you decide, is this healthy for me or is it not healthy for me? That can be a little confusing, right? Yeah. If I'm looking for attention from somebody else, am I doing it in a healthy way? How do I know? Mm-hmm. Like if somebody asked you that, what would you say to them? How would you tell them, okay, here's how you know that you're attracting energy or you're attracting attention in a healthy way?
Are you making someone else's life better, but not by not diminishing your light?
Okay. And let's say,
for instance, I like to make people laugh, but I'm not 99% of the time I'm not doing it on purpose. Mm-hmm. I'm not forcing it. I'm not trying to make people laugh, but I do get that good feeling when people are like, oh my God, you're so stupid, so I don't know, that's my way in life where that's how I connect with people. And that's the type of energy I like. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that I think has the kernel of what really makes all of this question easy to answer. Mm-hmm. Because you said you get the energy that you like. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That is the key right there.
Yes. Because if you're a negative person and you like negative attention, just because it's attention, and so that's not the right type of energy to be looking for.
Well, this is where I'm getting at actually, because I think we don't do ourselves a service. We don't help ourselves very much by talking about stuff as either positive or negative. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think it actually hinders us. I'll give you an example. Let's assume for the sake of discussion that you love apples and I hate apples. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if we bring up apples, is that a positive or a negative?
Neither.
Well, it depends on who you're talking to. Well. If you desire apples and I don't desire apples, then it's a positive for you and it's a negative for me.
That's true.
And that's what's so difficult about positive and negative. It's very, very subjective. Yeah. Each person's going to have a different idea of what's positive. Each person's going to have a different idea about what's negative.
Yeah, because there could be a person in a relationship where their significant other gets extremely jealous of everything they do. And they may feel like that sort of attention means they love them more because they get jealous of the situation of who they're talking to or what they're doing or what they're wearing. They're like, oh, that just means they're paying attention. Oh, he really cares about me. She really cares about me, and we would see that as negative, but they were like, no, that's great. You want that attention. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, that to me is why I don't think the words positive and negative are helpful. I prefer the words prefer and not prefer.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because it's really about what makes me feel good. What do I enjoy? What do I like?
Yeah.
What do I prefer? If I prefer that, then that for me is a positive. So now instead of talking in terms of positive, negative, if we talk in terms of I prefer or I don't prefer, or you prefer or you don't prefer, now we can talk about it in a way that makes sense. It always holds true. Alyx, for this space and time anyway, does not prefer oranges.
Nope.
Or Apple computers.
Apple anything.
She has made it abundantly clear that she doesn't do the fruit. So, okay, well, then you don't prefer apples. That's fine.
Nope.
There's no big deal in that. And the best part is because we framed it as preference rather than as positive or negative, it's clear.
Yeah.
Because
once you say positive or negative, people are like, well, why? What's the reason? And then you get into a whole discussion about what your
argument.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's also a lot of people attribute morality to positive and negative. Mm-hmm. And now you're getting into moral arguments.
Yeah.
Moral arguments, I mean, those just don't end. They just keep going.
Yeah. And it's your morality. It's like your idea of what's right and wrong versus someone else's. So it's like, it does end up in an argument because it's like, no, you're wrong. You're doing things wrong. No, you're not doing things by my standards. That's what you really want to say.
Yeah. You're not doing things by my preference, really.
Yes. Preference. Yes.
Yeah. And that's why I love preference so much. I think it's such a great way of understanding things because once you limit it down to do you prefer or do you not prefer, there isn't a whole lot of gray in there. It's either, I mean, there can be some. Well, I kind of prefer having au gratin potatoes. I mean, they're okay. So you
anything
get a little gray
with cheese is good. Cheese is life.
But you get a lot less gray area is my point. And with that.
Yeah.
And why do I point at that? Because I believe in clarity. Why do I believe in clarity? Because it's like Abraham Hicks says, clarity, when you're feeling clear, you're at the top of the vibration scale.
Yes. Yes.
You're in that really good place. So, if ever I want to ask myself, how do I get myself to feel better? Focus on clarity.
Yeah.
Make things more clear to myself and everything feels better. Mm-hmm. Which is really interesting.
It is. It is.
Because part of that process is also identifying through the clarity, I am really clear I don't want that thing. I am really clear that I don't prefer that at all. And through that clarity, all of a sudden I feel better because okay, well then I'm leaving that thing behind. Forget that. I'm done with trying to fix somebody else. I don't like that. It doesn't feel good to me.
Yeah. This is why I kind of roll with the idea of when people approach me with things I don't prefer, I always come back with, well, I wouldn't, but you do you.
Exactly. Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah.
And when you're eating that garlic and onion, eat it over there, please.
Well, please bring a toothbrush to dinner.
That's right. Yes.
There's Listerine in the cabinet.
We all have our preferences, and that's the beauty of it. That's what makes this universe that we live in so magical. Because all those preferences that we bring into the system create the dramas.
Yes.
They create the contrast.
Yes.
They create all the different opportunities for us to decide, yes, I'd like one of those. No, thank you on that one. And get to go our merry way. And once we understand the system, I mean, that's the rule book we were looking for, right? The manual. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the manual right there. This is all just a preference system. What do you prefer? Mm-hmm. And once we understand that, all of a sudden, our lives become better. Mm-hmm. Cool beans. So, have we adequately addressed the question that you raised? Because the question was a good one. What do you do? Well, how did you phrase it? Was it what do you do if you're a person who tries to fix other people, or?
I mean, we could answer that, but the question was, are you a people fixer?
Are you a people fixer? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about what the value is in asking that question.
Okay.
Why is that valuable?
Well, mainly because people need to understand or try to figure out that you can't change how other people are. So if you're trying to fix someone, there's something in you that's not happy.
Mm.
Because that's what you're putting out, that's what you're getting back.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In fact, if we're caught up in that little syndrome that you can get in, or that loop that you can get stuck in, of trying to fix somebody and it doesn't really work, and so you try to fix it in another way, and that doesn't really work. And you try to fix it another way, and that doesn't really work. And you just keep going through that loop over and over and over again.
Yeah.
At some point, you might want to get out of the loop.
Yeah.
And not know how to do it. So that's where it's useful to ask the question. Well, why do I want to fix this person?
Right.
What's in it for me? Mm-hmm. And let's say the answer that you raise for yourself, I mean, there are millions of possible answers, right?
Yeah.
Billions, trillions. But let's say your particular answer is, well, I want to fix this person because if I can fix them, they'll be so much nicer to live with.
Or they'll be miserable at the person they turned out to be for you.
Well, there's also that possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's say that's what your reason is. Let's say, okay, I want to fix this person because they'll be so much nicer to live with. Well, okay, let's assume just for the sake of discussion that you could actually fix somebody. Pretend that, even though it's not true.
Right.
So let's say you go out of your way to fix this person, and after much trial and tribulation, you finally fix them to be the way you want them to be. Mm-hmm. Then what?
Well, now everything's perfect.
Is it?
That's the goal. That's the allegedness.
Here's why I'm raising the question.
Yeah. We
come into this world to experience the contrast.
Right.
So why would we want everything to be perfect? Mm-hmm. See, this is where I think the value is in asking that question. When you ask that question, why do I want to fix this person? What you're really asking is, do I prefer to go through a process that is almost certainly going to lead to failure over and over again, with the idea that is going to somehow make me happy? And if I did somehow manage to do it, if I managed to somehow make them, quote, perfect, unquote, then they would remain that way forever and I'd get bored. See, the person who was looking, the person who's looking to make somebody else fixed is the person who is basically saying, I can't live with another person unless that person always behaves the way I expect them to behave.
Yes. And no one gets anywhere with that situation.
I mean, that's just going to defeat you from the get-go.
Yeah. And there'll always be something else. There'll always be something else. Just when you think you got them perfect, then I don't know, they start picking up a bad habit. They start drinking, or they start picking their nose, or leaving the bathroom tube open. I don't know.
And then you got to fix that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's always something to fix. But also I feel like with people fixers is like the only way that they feel needed. And that's not the type of love you're looking for. You want to feel needed because someone needs you in their life, not because you're not a therapist. No one's paying you to be in this relationship. So, figure it out.
Well, you're also pointing to a really great point, which is you're looking to somebody else for your
happiness. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that is a losing formula.
Yes, it is. That's why I said you got to be happy with you first before you can get with anybody else. Friendship, relationship, anything.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And that's where we trip up. We forget that, I have to love myself before anybody else can love me.
Yes.
Because if I don't love myself, why should anybody else?
Exactly.
What's the point?
Like when you're sitting on the dating app trying to fill out your bio and you have nothing to put, like, think about that for a second. You might want to log off, do some work, and then come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like if we were to express it in terms of preference, because I really like doing it in terms of preference. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like saying, I don't prefer myself, so I want somebody else to prefer me.
Yeah, that's gross. That's a terrible way to think. Like, yeah. It's like if you don't like you, how are you going to convince somebody else to?
And why would they want to?
Yeah.
What's the point? I mean, if you're not going to prefer yourself and you're asking them to, let's try to play that scenario out. I don't think there's a way to do it, but let's just try for a second. Mm-hmm. I don't prefer me. I want you to prefer me, because if you prefer me while I don't prefer me, then I will feel better. Really?
Now, you can solve that if you run into a people fixer, because they'll be like, oh, I'm going to make you feel so good all the time that you're going to love yourself.
And we have just
Bring it all back around. Bring it all back around.
We've just defined the perfect codependent, counterdependent relationship.
Yes.
Which is guaranteed to fall apart in 6 months or less.
Yes. If you're in couples counseling after 2 months of dating, you may want to look at something. You may be wasting your money.
It's not couples counseling you need at that point. It's a different kind of counseling.
No, you're still getting to know each other. Yeah, that's a problem.
Well, you're still getting to know yourself. That's the thing.
That too.
I mean, they're just not. That's two different people who are looking to try to control somebody else in order to feel better.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, God.
Yeah.
Do I really have to? Let me make it perfectly clear, abundantly clear. That is something I do not prefer.
Yeah. I will admit I almost did it once because I was getting desperate. And I was like, okay, this person checks off all my boxes except he's a smoker. Mm. And I was like, but I can get him to quit. It'll be fine. And then I was like, you know what? I don't know how long he's been smoking, but I'm not going to be like, oh, you quit for me. And now you have that over my head. Mm. No one has anything over my head. No. Mm. So I was like, nah, that's not going to work.
Good.
That's not what I prefer.
I would even add that he does prefer smoking.
Clearly.
Yeah. And that's really important to recognize. He prefers it. I mean, you may not like smoking at all. I certainly.
I sure don't.
But he prefers it.
Yeah.
Okay. So it isn't really a question of whether or not you can fix him. It's really a question of, are you willing to be with somebody who smokes? Because that's not going to change anytime soon.
Well, the universe already told me I can't be with someone who smokes because I have asthma. So that's not going to work.
well, I think we can pretty much summarize that is, no, Alyx does not prefer to be with a smoker.
Nope.
It's very straightforward. And she had perhaps had a 2x4 to the side of the head in order to realize she didn't want to be with a smoker, but she nevertheless came to the conclusion.
I can pinpoint the 2x4.
You can, really?
I can. Okay. So I was not aware that this person, he was a smoker that only smoked when he drank, those type of people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he went out to the bar one night and then he was like, oh, I'm coming over to visit you after I'm done hanging out with my friends. And I'm like, okay, get to hang out. We're watching TV. He leans over to kiss me and I was like, did you smoke today? And he was like, yes. And I was like, no, I do not prefer this.
Absolutely.
I was like, well, Listerine's in the cabinet. You should take advantage of that. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you might as well leave. I gotta.
There are two doors. There's the door to the cabinet in the bathroom, and there's the door to the outside. Take your pick.
And another thing about smokers that I don't prefer is they spit. So I'm like, I can't stand that. I can't. Oh, it's a pet peeve. Oh, it makes me nauseous. So I can't do smokers.
So very clear. Well, that means you became really, really clear about what it is that you don't like.
Yes.
And that clarity
right in that moment, I had clarity. I was like, no. This tastes like a no.
It tastes like a no. That's it. Exactly. So that's good. Now, let's take that through to the creation process, because the creation process starts with identifying what you don't want. Mm-hmm. And now that you know what you don't want, it implies what you do want. This is something we often trip up on. We forget to actually make clear to ourselves, okay, so what is it that I do want?
Right.
And if we don't make it clear to ourselves, we get kind of stuck on, well, I don't want this thing.
Mm-hmm. And then you end up attracting what you don't want because you're stuck on that.
Right. So in this case, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but what did you want? Mm-hmm. How would you have said that to yourself at the time?
Simple. I prefer a non-smoker.
Simple enough.
Yeah.
Might even, if you want to go really, really on the good feeling side of it, you might say, I prefer somebody who actually respects his lungs.
Mm-hmm. And wants to live a long life. Yeah.
And wants to live a long life, yeah. Yeah, I don't really want to be a widow at 45 or 50.
Right, yeah, no.
So I have some pretty strong preferences for that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Seriously, it's terrible.
But that's how the process goes to the next step. First, you've identified what it is you didn't want, and then you were smart enough to recognize, okay, so what does this mean in terms of what I do want? Mm-hmm. An interesting thing happens there, too.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing that happens is that very often when we try to identify what we do want, we think about it and feel about it in terms of what we don't want.
Right, right.
You know? So the person could say, well, I want to not have somebody who's smoking and drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment that you're on that is the moment you're attracting more people who smoke and drink.
Yes.
Which is really a great way to piss me off, I'll tell you that. No, I did again. I can't believe it.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's also part of that process, understanding that you have to go from what you don't want to what you do want, expressed in the way that feels good to you. And then once you've done that, now you're ready for the next step of the process.
Mm-hmm. I have a sneaking suspicion that whoever creates dating apps believes in law of attraction. Because that whole what do you prefer process is part of the process of creating your profile.
Mm-hmm,
so you have to check off non-smokers or people with kids or, there's a whole list of things, between the age of whatever to whatever, how many miles away from you. And so I'm like, I just thought about that just now. I was like, you know what? People are thinking.
Well, I don't know for sure that they're into law of attraction, but I do know that because our lives are all regulated by, I guess you could say, the law of attraction, influenced by the law of attraction on a daily, minute-by-minute basis. When we try to resolve an issue, we may unwittingly lean toward law of attraction to solve it. I mean, I've done programming, and I know that, when you program, you kind of have to program in black and white. There's not a whole lot of gray area in programming. The answer is either yes or it's no. The answer is true or it's false. There's not a lot of gray area.
Right.
And as a result, if you're trying to identify what it is this person wants, you have to create a list. Okay, does the person like this characteristic? Do they like that characteristic? You have to start listing characteristics so that they can pick and choose which ones they want. And that you don't have to necessarily know what the law of attraction is in order to create that list. But that's what I'm saying. They may know law of attraction, they may not, but they're certainly being driven by it when they're doing the programming. Whether they're doing it consciously or unconsciously almost doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah.
Which is funny. Yeah. In fact, it's actually a challenge. If you want to learn how to be better at being clear about, do I want something, do I not want something, try programming. Because programming forces you to learn to do that really clearly. If you don't, your program doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah, it's a great exercise for that. Now, personally for me, too much programming actually is kind of like, doing too much of anything that turns into something I really don't like.
Yeah.
That's what happened. I mean, I got to the point where I was just done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Over
I've done
it.
all the programming I want to do. Thank you very much. My brother, he's a software developer. He loves it. He'll just program until the cows come home. But I don't have that tolerance level for it. So, my preference is a little different from his preference. But nevertheless, it's still a good thing to try. I mean, just try learning how to write an HTML page, a basic web page. Just learn how to do it. When you just learn the basics of that, you find yourself having to follow a certain set of rules to decide, do I want this? Do I not want this? It's just built into the process of creating a web page or creating anything in programming. What's that one language called? There's a language that was developed in the last 10 to 15 years, and the name escapes my mind. But it is a language basically for non-programmers to learn programming really quickly.
JavaScript?
No, Java's too complex. It's much more simple than that because of the P. I can't remember what it is. But it's a great language to start with in terms of understanding. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. This is what I want to present. This is what I don't want to present. You learn that process really quickly using this programming language. So I urge people just try programming something once. I know it's tough. I know it's not your favorite thing to do, but just try it for a bit because it will help you learn how to be clear.
You know what? I can vouch for millennials of my age because back when MySpace was a thing, to have the coolest page, you had to learn how to add HTML speak into to program your page. There was a specific way to do it. I mean, granted, most of us cheated and we were like, oh, I like what's on that person's page. I gotta Google what the HTML code is, where to put it, and then just copy and paste it to mine, and there you go.
But that's not cheating. That's how most people learn how to program.
Oh, well, then I learned how to program.
Absolutely. It's a complete,
I had the illest page.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was a great line from the West Wing television series.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sam Seaborn was one of the speechwriters, and he had this great line. His great line was this: good writers borrow from other writers.
Mm.
Great writers steal outright from other writers.
Wow.
And it's true. You look at, the history of writing. Shakespeare stole everything that he wrote. He wrote it brilliantly. He wrote it beautifully. But every single idea he'd written had already been written before. Mm-hmm. Just that he turned it into his own way of saying it, and the way he said it was great. It was wonderful.
Yeah, it works.
So there's nothing wrong with taking code. There's nothing wrong with it at all. In fact, I'll even throw out a preference of my own. I think that at some point we're going to abandon the copyright system.
The what system?
Copyrights and patents.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that, this only belongs to me. Everybody has to pay me, to use this thing that I created. Mm-hmm. I think that's ultimately going to disappear. I'm not saying that.
Really?
I really do. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me tell you why. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. It's going to be perhaps millennia before that happens. But eventually it will happen, because what we're going to recognize is that you don't lose an idea because someone else uses it.
Right. No.
You really don't.
Mm-hmm.
So what the copyright and patent system is all about is trying to put a corner on the market to basically put everybody's arms behind their backs and force them to generate income for you. Mm-hmm. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
And that's about fear of scarcity. Mm-hmm. So eventually I think the point comes where people say, you know what, I'm just tired of being afraid of something that isn't really there. And I'm not interested in that anymore. And they're literally just going to lose interest, I think, in copyrights and patents over time as they become better at being deliberate creators. Because that's just another example of, I need to get my energy by taking it from somebody else.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was a time when I would, agitate against copyrights and patents. Now I say, well, shoot, all that was doing was attracting more copyrights and patents. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to say, hey, you know what? It's all going to go away once I stop paying attention to it. Yep. And everybody else stops paying attention to it. Mm-hmm. And it may take some time, but that's all right. It's going that way. So instead, I came up with a cool meme to tell you about. I think it's eventually going to disappear. You said, really?
I mean, that's basically what social media is the sharing of information. Absolutely. And nobody sits there and go, oh, who originated this meme? Like, no one's thinking about that. They're just laughing at the meme and sharing. So it's all going to be one giant collective.
In fact, it already is one. And if you want to see evidence of how it can work against your own preferences, here's a great way to look at it. Mm-hmm. Look at people who create memes that are deliberate lies.
Yep.
They want to pull the wool over your eyes about something, usually about, politics or economics or careers or health or relationship or something. They're trying to deceive
or celebrities.
Celebrities, yeah. Yeah. They're trying to spin it. They're trying to get you to buy into their spin, because if you buy into their spin, they'll feel better.
Yeah.
And once again, we're back in the realm of trying to steal energy from other people.
Exactly. It's like the whole feeling better thing is like, especially with social media now, it's gone crazy because everybody's trying so hard to go viral. Like, why? Who cares? Like, it's not that serious. Mm-hmm. Oh, I have a friend of mine who was like, oh, I should do this for a video. It'll go viral. Like, she says that after everything. And I was like, but it won't, though. It's stupid. Like, you need to look at the internet again and think a little bigger.
Well, I have to tell you, honestly, the idea of going viral is what was part of the impetus of creating The Grass is Greener. Mm-hmm. Because I'd heard about, I told you the story before, and many of our listeners have heard it, but I saw the article that came out about February or so. Mm-hmm. And it was about how a company had been created a few years ago to create audio plays. Yep. And sold the company in February to Spotify, which is one of the biggest podcasting networks out there.
Yep, it is.
For $230 million. And I went to check the various programs out, and they sucked. They were terrible. Mm-hmm. And so my impetus was, well, heck, I can write something that sucks too. Maybe mine will go viral. No, of course, we didn't stay with that. We decided, well, actually, maybe we're going to make ours good. Maybe we can make it
exactly.
fun and so forth. Maybe we'll actually have something that is worth watching or actually worth listening to, just because it's better. But no, originally it was, I can write something terrible.
Wherever you pull your ideas from, it's fine. I roll with it.
But the point there is that I wasn't really taking it seriously. I was like, oh God, I gotta make this go viral.
Yeah. Well, that's a part of it. I think if you're not taking it too seriously, like if it happens, it happens. It doesn't, it doesn't, you know?
If I had taken that tack, first of all, you wouldn't have joined the project.
No, I'd be like, oh, this dude's thirsty.
Yes. No kidding. And secondly, even if you had joined the project, it wouldn't have gone anywhere because instead of writing a good drama, we would be
like, we wrote something, let's put it out now. Yeah.
So we would just we'd written some drivel and said, oh, this is going to go viral. Let's publish it.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, we took our time. We had, what do we have, like 4 drafts of the first episode?
4 drafts. Yeah. That's impressive just hearing that when you say that. I mean, we went through it. It doesn't seem all that impressive, but that was 4 drafts. That was good.
Well, the people I sent it to were very impressed.
Oh, good.
Yes. They said, strong writing. This is amazing. I can't wait to listen to this. I can't wait to see what happens next. So we're getting good vibes.
We are. We're getting a lot of
people are sending good vibes.
They are sending great vibes. Yeah, and they aren't even intending to necessarily.
Right, and those are the vibes you want.
They are. They're great. Drew, who was Dark Dry Drew, was one of my co-hosts. He did actually the Thursday afternoon show when I was doing Thursday shows, and I shared it with him. I shared with him the first draft that you and I wrote, and he loved it. He thought it was great. And then I sent him the last one that we just did.
I was going to say, wait till he sees it now.
And I sent him that one. He says, whoa, this is so much stronger. I can't wait to hear it with the sound effects.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's going to be something. It's like when you're in a movie and you're only doing your part, you can't wait to the premiere so you can see how it all comes out with the editing and the sound and all that stuff. So.
And I've been thinking about that. I've been giving a lot of thought because I'm the one who has the editing software, so I kind of have to edit. And I've been thinking, I'll come to like one piece of one scene that we did and I'll say, okay, so what music do I want to use for that? What sound effect? How should the sound effect sound? I start asking myself all these questions.
Yeah.
You know? How do I piece together? How do I mold this into what I want it to sound like? And then I immediately find myself saying, and will Alyx and PJ like it?
Right. And that's why you have a sounding board.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And very often I'll just run it by you. I mean, you actually have done a lot of the research in terms of finding the music.
Yeah.
I mean, I found a site and said, okay, here, Alyx, go with this. Find some good music on that. And you went and found some good music on it.
You know what I do? It's easy when you just picture the scene and then you close your eyes and you go, does this make me feel anything? Nope. Yeah. Moving on.
And ideally, it doesn't make me feel good. Doesn't make me feel good. Yeah, that really works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fun. That's the fun part of the process. We both discovered that script writing is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
But when you come up with that final product that we think we have for the first episode, it's satisfying.
I like casting because I get to sit in my bedroom and judge people. It's fantastic.
I love it.
You're awful. I'll save you for later. You're great. I'll put you in that pile.
And the best part is their feelings don't get hurt because they don't know which one.
No, they don't.
That is funny though.
Oh, God.
I haven't actually taken a look yet. I mean, I know you sorted them. We have a Dropbox that we share that the three of us, you, me, and PJ share, where we share all these different audio files that I've been stripping out of what they give me through the various places that I give. Anyway, you took them and you kind of sorted them into folders based on, okay, you thought this was a Jen, you thought this one was Alana, this one, so on and so forth. But like through Backstage.com, where most of them are coming from, they actually get to apply for a particular character. Now, I'm not sharing that information as I give you the audio files. It'll be interesting to go in later on and see, okay, this person thought that this was, that he or she, or that she was a Nance, but you put her in a Jen category.
Yep.
How many of those there are?
I can kind of tell. I'm like, oh, I feel like you want to be Nance, but you're not. You're not. You're not the Nance in my head. So you got 2 other people to go through, but we'll see.
And I want to give a piece of advice to any actors who might be listening here who have had trouble, frustrations, trying to get discovered, trying to get included in productions and so forth. Read the instructions.
Yes, please. Jesus.
I have had to, I mean, it actually makes the filtering easier because I got rid of like half of the applicants because they didn't read the instructions and give us a 20-second monologue or a video reel that was the equivalent of a monologue.
Right.
They had no monologue at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an easy rejection.
Yeah.
That takes all 3 seconds. Okay, you're gone. Bye. No.
Yeah. I was like, nah, well, we ain't got time for that. Nope. Keep it moving.
So ask yourself, if somebody is asking for something in a play or a movie or something that they're casting for, and you aren't giving it to them, why should you expect to be brought in for an audition?
Right. If you can't even follow directions, how are you going to follow directions?
Yeah, how about that? You have to follow a director when you're part of a production.
Exactly. And that was part of my explanation. I was like, if they can't follow directions with the simple 20-second video, then when we ask them to do something, it's going to be a fight. No, we don't want that kind of vibes on our set. No.
It's like PJ says, time is money when it comes to actually doing a production. And it's true. It doesn't matter if you're doing it for free. It's still time is money. You don't want to waste time. Nobody wants to. Mm-hmm. So why would you waste time when it comes to auditioning? It doesn't make any sense. So we'll give more pieces of advice over time. We're unfortunately out of time for this one, but
we're learning as we go.
We are. It's fun, and we hope that people come along for the ride because it's going to be a cool ride.
Yeah.
But this is a good topic. I'm glad you brought this one up. This idea of trying to fix people and how we're so good at killing ourselves with trying to fix people until we finally realize it's just not worth it.
No, I'm subscribed to this notion that my person is out there, so I don't have to do any fixing.
And he is. So So with that in thought in mind, I will say thank you very much. Thank you to our live stream listeners and to our podcast listeners, and we will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.